Alright, before we get into the video, in the next couple weeks I'll be doing a review of the Potato Masher's second year and my past year with the channel overall. Right after that video releases, I want to do a Q&A or Ask Me Anything video as well, so if you have any questions about the Potato Masher channel or anything else, I might be able to answer them. Leave a comment with AMA in the beginning if you want me to answer it, or send me a tweet. There's also a channel on my Discord where you can drop questions, link to that is in the description. Today we'll be taking a look at Mafia 3 on the Potato Masher Pro. In case you don't know, the Potato Masher Pro is a side series to the main Potato Masher where I take a GTX 1060 and toss it into the Potato Masher to compare it against the PS4 Pro. The goal is not to pick on the PS4 Pro, but to show you what type of experience you can have with a budget PC. Links are in the description if you want more information, and let's get to it. As I showed you in the regular Potato Masher video for Mafia 3, this isn't exactly a great looking game. There's some good art design, and there are moments where I can tell the developers had plans for something better, but the overall product looks rough and dated. PS4 Pro runs at 30 FPS and about 1440p. As I also said in the regular Masher review, the game's overall presentation is so soft that resolution doesn't seem to matter as much as it usually does. The temporal anti-aliasing is too aggressive, and even turning it down on PC doesn't make much of a difference, although the game does look a tiny bit sharper. On the Masher Pro, I'm running the game at 1440p, very high, and locked at 30 FPS. While the game is very CPU heavy, the frame rate is pretty consistently locked, and I didn't run into many stability issues. While I don't think the game is especially good looking, most of the launch problems appear to be as fixed as we can expect without a major game overhaul, which is unlikely to happen. The two platforms look very similar in most cases. Textures and texture filtering have the same disappointingly low-res look, but they're better than the regular PS4 or Masher. Object geometry ranges from fine to early PS3 quality, and the dynamic lighting is also fairly basic. The Masher Pro has more volumetric lighting, and it tells you a lot about the game that's the biggest difference I noticed. The gamma points appear to be slightly different between both platforms, but I used the game's default brightness and both machines are recorded with the same equipment, so it's possible there are slight differences in lighting between them or I encountered a bug. Either way, it was pretty consistent and it was also pretty minor. The last difference I noticed is shadow quality and ambient occlusion. These are very slightly better on the Masher Pro, but I want to stress that it's a very minor difference that isn't even visible in every scene. Overall, the game's consistency across both platforms shouldn't be looked at as a sign of a well-optimized game, but a very basic port that launched too early and didn't receive much care on the PC. Still, the Masher Pro lets us tweak the experience, so let's see if we can do something about some of the game's visual shortcomings. Since the bulk of our comparisons focus on the 1080p experience, here I've lowered the settings to medium, the resolution to 1080p, and I've capped the frame rate at 60. The frame rate isn't stable, it ranges from the mid-30s up to 60, so I don't think I'd recommend this unless you have a variable refresh rate monitor. A higher frame rate can't fix this game, but it does help and it makes combat feel a little smoother. Some people don't mind an unlocked frame rate on a traditional monitor, so more power to you guys, but I'm not normally a fan. You'll also note that the game doesn't look much worse than it did at 1440p and very high settings. There are a couple differences you can spot when you look closely, but the overall presentation is largely the same. In an attempt to get better frame rates, I dropped down to low settings. While the GPU and CPU are still getting hit hard, the frame rate was in the low 50s most of the time, with drops to around 45 and sometimes been at 60. The visual trade-off is still small, although the volumetric lighting and shadows are notably reduced in quality, so let's see what else we can do. Mafia 3 is so soft, I don't think a higher resolution matters as much as normal, but still let's see if the Masher Pro can hit native 4K at playable settings. And it kinda can. At 4K and low settings, it's fine. I honestly don't think it looks much higher resolution than 1440p, and on a 1080p screen there's a negligible improvement. On a 4K screen it's a little sharper and the UI is sized correctly, but there isn't much else to write home about. I'm surprised the Masher Pro can hit 4K given how poorly optimized the game is, but it's not like 30 FPS and low settings is all that impressive. 1870p and medium settings also works, but honestly, with this game I'd stick to either 1440p or 4K if you're on a 4K screen, and 1080p if that's your regular resolution. There just aren't enough good reasons to super sample this game to bother, at least in my opinion. If you have a ton of GPU power left over, it might be worth super sampling for a little extra sharpness like I did with the regular Potato Masher, but don't give up other settings to do it. I don't place any blame on this game's middling performance and visuals on the Masher Pro or the PlayStation 4 Pro. Both platforms have delivered a much better experience than most other games I've tried, and in my opinion this is mostly a tie. Granted, if you have a variable refresh rate screen, the Master Pro's higher frame rate might make the difference for you. And if you have a 4K screen, you might prefer that. But overall, the visuals are so disappointing and similar to each other that I can't really recommend one platform over the other. That's a shame because the game itself is better than it gets credit for. The story is very unique and interesting, with good voice acting in a setting that's rarely featured in games. I do actually recommend you check this game out at some point, performance and visual issues aside. You should probably wait a while for additional patches and optimization, plus the price will keep going down. If you haven't watched the normal Master review of Mafia 3, check it out and consider subscribing to the channel or supporting me on Patreon if you enjoy my content. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.